Good evening. This is the May 1 meeting of the Policy and Instruction Subcommittee. And our first thing on the agenda is to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I had let you folks know that I felt our experience with the reading program had suggested we really needed to kind of work on some curriculum things. So for the foreseeable future, we're going to be kind of doubling up on things that Dr. DeBrito needs us to look at, and then also some curriculum stuff. I would like to have the curriculum stuff, if possible, done in time for September or October at the latest. And by that I mean actually adopted as policy. So I had emailed out and asked if folks were okay meeting in July, as we did last year. I heard from Sean that it was okay. What about the other folks? Is that doable?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm fine with that as well.
All right, so I will talk with Dr. DeBrito and we'll put our heads together for a couple of dates and then send them out, and you guys can tell us which ones work. I'd also like to get another meeting in this month so that we have some things ready to go to the board as soon as possible, if that's doable. Again, if it works, you know, if you can do it, I'd be grateful. If you can't, we can't. What do you
I
think?
say as long as it's after Basket Bash. And the next 2 weeks are pretty busy with stuff going on in the schools, but if it's towards the end of the month, I can definitely do it.
Okay, Terry?
I'm flexible.
Okay. I am not flexible because I'm old, but I am available, so we'll work that out too. All right, so we've agreed to schedule a couple of extra meetings.
Sean, you should send Jim your coaching schedule, so that's another thing we can try to work around.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And games.
Yeah,
Games.
well, I'll send it to you, but
Because I know May is
crazy.
a horrendous, like,
We have baseball, soccer, we got lots going on.
everything, awards at night, concerts, like, it's big.
One of the things that had concerned me surrounding the reading pilot was that we didn't have anything like an established protocol to vet supplies like textbooks and programs and things like that. And I'm used to that. I spent 5 years doing that work toward the end of my career.
I think that it exists, wasn't necessarily used for this event, but I'm getting different information from different people. So we'll bring everything to the table of whatever exists in whatever form, so that then the committee is fully aware of what potentially has been shared. We'll look through that, but I have been seeking, is there a different knowledge based on different levels? Where is everybody in regard to this?
Well, you would know more about that than I would. My experience in the district is that there wasn't anything, which either means it existed and everybody ignored it, or it didn't really exist, and there's nothing in policy that addresses it. And that's one of my goals, is to have policy that clearly outlines a meaningful set of steps to engage in when doing that. It will not involve us having anything to do with actually writing curriculum or selecting textbooks or anything like that. That's not our purview. but it will provide, and it may be in the form of regulations that get adopted with policy. It will provide some structure so that things are done appropriately and consistently, and there's something folks can point their fingers at.
No, it all makes sense. I'm working with the admins, like you had once said, there's no benefit to having policy if it's not being followed. So let's just make sure if there is pockets of knowledge, everybody needs to be on the same page, and there needs to be the oversight to make sure that it happens. And it might be, slightly different building to building is potentially
Well-
what's happened, but yes, we are all on the same page.
The
That
co-
coherence is what we are striving for.
And the concern I have is that since there is nothing actually in policy, there's nothing that anybody who wanted to push the issue can point to. We ran into that with your predecessor. They ignored policies, but in a couple of occasions, I was able to cite policy and force the issue and get things to be done correctly, because there was something that was there. And I'll just say what I've always said. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about who comes next and which board comes
Thank you.
next.
Yeah, no, it's beneficial for the staff and for the entire district to have protocols that are reliable and that make sense. So there are samples out there. And so Jim did provide some samples and we're gonna make them our templates. So I'm working with the admins on that, and then it'll come to the committee so you can see it. That'll be part of the work to really get completed in the summer simultaneously with policy. So wanted to just reiterate that.
And one of the advantages, aside from just the normal advantage of tailoring it to meet the specific needs and expertise in this district, one of the advantages is that we'll be able to tailor. The forms I was able to provide were specifically a textbook adoption evaluation tool and a textbook adoption recommendation tool. But there's a lot of things that need to be vetted now. It's not just textbooks anymore. And things like the reading program, like major software. Now, you'll hear me refer to this, and I'm gonna cite it or explain it now. And if you ever forget and you're not sure, just remind me. You'll hear me say things about trade books. That's the stuff that is used to support curriculum. And it's a term in particular that we English teachers throw around because we have novels and short story collections and all this other stuff. Generally speaking, that never goes through a board approval process, at least not in my experience. It's something where administrative personnel and teachers are allowed much more direct control, and it's more appropriate.
Well, it
also
also
side-
supports the curriculum. So once you've
Right.
already approved the curriculum, we're purchasing materials that support that curriculum.
Right, and but when we talk, it's one of the limitations, just like we're never going to be involved in actually developing curriculum or selecting textbooks or programs or whatever. We're not gonna be involved in deciding what materials teachers ought to use to support those things. That is the purview of the administrative staff headed by Dr. DeBrito here. So that's just a little background. Did everybody get a chance to scout through the documents, the policy documents that we distributed? All right, first question, I asked Todd this, or Sean rather, this already. Is there any feedback from this different format?
I like it.
Is it better, worse, irrelevant?
Terry, what was that? You said,
In full disclosure, I didn't get to all the policies this week, so I'm gonna let
It
everybody
happens.
know that
I know
it's
what you've been
a
going through.
harrowing week. But
Um,
as far as the format, I'm okay with it.
is there a reason her volume's so low? Hang on a second, Terry, we're gonna see if we can turn you up because I don't know how others are feeling, but I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Can you speak now, Terry?
Sure.
Oh,
Is it any better?
oh, it's way better.
I found the
All right.
magic button.
You found the volume control.
Hear you from your house.
I'm like, it can't be me. I just got broadband installed.
Okay, good.
All right, great. Even if you haven't read all of them, if you've read even one, how do you feel about the format? Is it workable for you? Do you like the performer one? Do you have a preference?
I like the format. It's definitely, it's a change, but I like it. I can deal with the change because it's all in one place. I'm not going back and forth between documents. So for me, it's easier.
Okay, Jackie?
I can work with it. At reading through it, I just kind of read through the stuff that's not crossed out, and if I have any questions, I go back to the other stuff that's crossed out and colored and can know where it came from and why, but I use the list of
The key there,
column,
yeah.
the key,
Yeah.
after, and I just read through,
Whatever works.
yes, so.
All right, so it sounds
It'll
like,
be a learning curve, but
Yeah.
I can work with it and I'm fine with it.
okay, good. This was Dr. DeBrito's suggestion. It took a little while for me to kind of figure out how to make it work. When I did, I thought it was probably better, but I also thought it was a significant change and I ought to get some feedback from people before we decided on it permanently.
I like that it saves paper, we don't have to read the same, I don't have to let 3 different versions to
Yeah.
go through.
Yeah.
I always use the meme of It's Always Sunny with Charlie at the cork board with like the lines and the tacks and the sticky notes, like it's all in one place, so
Yeah.
I like it.
Good. Okay, the first policy on our list, 6140, this is instruction and curriculum policy. And if you read through things, you know anything in blue is the CABE version. Anything in green is stuff I'm suggesting we add. And there wasn't a whole lot, I don't think, from the original policy that was in the CABE policy. So, other than legal references, actually. So, any questions, concerns, thoughts?
I have a few, but I can wait.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my first initial question, I read through, but probably not to the point that I could have to not ask these questions, is does this policy require that all parts of curriculum is fully approved, like mandated that the curriculum is approved by the Board of Ed before implementing going forward?
Technically, it's state law. So the
Yeah,
answer
this
is
is a
yes.
required policy because it's legislated.
Right, no, I understand this the policy, but does that mean that any aspect of curriculum goes through the board before happening in the classroom?
Again, state law says yes.
Okay.
Now, for the record, I personally don't expect, and I don't think, I'll speak for Dr. DeBrito, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see that if a teacher comes up with an idea and wants to tweak something, that they can't do that. I would not want to hamstring them that way.
Right,
So
and
then
there are
bad
daily
teaching.
lessons that support the curriculum. So the curriculum provides really the direction,
Scope.
right? The scope, the sequence, the standards, alignment, assessments, so daily lessons is where that flexibility
So-
happens.
Because my next question is, where is the line that staff, teacher, and admins need to seek permission? So in my brain, that is visual. The curriculum is the bones. That
I'm
gets-
sorry.
The bones
Bones, yes.
of the body that get approved, and
Think you're
the
correct.
muscles, the joints, the skin are what they fill in based on the bones that we approve. Okay, cause I just wanna make sure we're not, coming across as implying that our current curriculum is problematic. We're just tying up loose ends on the
Our current
policy.
process is problematic. The curriculum is not necessarily problematic.
Okay, so what our teachers and our teaching and our students are learning is not problematic. We're just rectifying and tying up, making it very neat with a bow that the process going forward is very straightforward for introducing anything new or any changes.
Or for reviewing, yeah. I would put it this way. I am personally not aware of any specific curricular problems. I'm not in a position to say there are none. I haven't evaluated every bit of curriculum in this district. You know, I can't say that. But I'm not aware of any problems. I am aware of problems in process. And that's what I'm trying to shape, is just get things into what I think would be a more typical, more professional setup. And Dr. DeBrito is correct. She said it before to me personally, and she said it tonight. If people are willing to ignore policy, then the policy doesn't mean anything. Where it comes into where the rubber hits the road then is if there's someone who wants to make things work correctly, they have something to hang their hats on if they want to object to something that's going on.
And your concern is that the board has never seen curriculum.
Not since Patty's been on the board, not once, and that's mind-blowing to me.
So I just, in that right there, that the board for that many years has not asked for or looked into or seen curriculum, that doesn't mean that policies necessarily were being ignored. It's just that there was no direct connection, communication, understanding between the board, the admins, and everybody to be on the same page.
State law was being ignored, systematically and deliberately.
It's district employees are to come to the policy committee, not that the board members on the committee go in that direction. It really is, right?
Right, I think I'm just trying to clarify for my own personal feelings is that when I hear a statement that policies were being ignored, my jump to is that who's ignoring them? Like, are we blaming the teachers for ignoring them? Because I don't think that's what we're trying to say, but I wanna make sure that's clear.
He's just saying that as employees, we have to adhere to the policies. That, when you get hired, you have to adhere to policies. People get into trouble when they don't adhere to the policies. And that's all I think that's all I'm hearing is the policies were in place, whether it's policy or it's legislated, it wasn't happening.
It's also in the teacher's teaching contract that the Board of Ed has to approve curriculum. But the prior superintendent did not operate in what I would have been, what I would have seen in my experience in my years in education. What he did was very different and very kind of loosey-goosey. I don't see that as being a criticism of the teaching staff. They're just doing their thing, and which is what they're supposed to do.
And the superintendent is responsible for all the staff and the teachers, so they
So
can be
this is-
doing their thing, and if they're not held accountable by their supervisor, it's the supervisor. I mean, it's the superintendent's responsibility.
Yeah.
So this is
Make sure
like
we follow.
almost
So
like
it's-
a fresh start, starting going
Exactly
forward, like
correct.
we're not
Yeah,
reprimanding,
we're not looking
punishing, looking down upon
There-
anything that's happened in the
No,
past, we're just like, you know what we can only do, what we can do going forward, and this is our way of showing
just
that.
to set
Yeah, and
clarity.
giving everybody the opportunity to really update curriculum so that when it does come,
Yep.
that they feel like we recently worked on it and they're presenting what's up to date as opposed to just getting everybody lined up, come and maybe there are things that we can improve upon.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can tell you that Dr. DeBrito gave me access to the curriculum. I haven't had a lot of time to look at it, but I have looked at some of it, and what I've seen has been fine. You know, they're really, from my perspective, there is no needed nor intended criticism of teaching staff in any of this. This is, like I said, it's an effort to systematize process, that's all.
I just think thank you. I think it's important to be like abundantly clear the reasons why we're addressing this now, because I can see how a conversation about now we need to regulate curriculum could be misconstrued as we need to fix some problems
No, I think people just didn't know.
to the community.
Yeah, they know,
Listening,
understood.
like we're doing.
Understand.
That's all I have for that one. So
Okay, anything else? Jackie?
no, thank you.
Okay. Terry, do you have anything you want to talk about?
The only thing I noticed was on page 3. Hold on. I'm not sure if this is a typo or not, but I'm assuming it is. In the second paragraph, in the sentence that is reading in establishing and approving, should that be and?
In establishing
yes.
and approved. or
I was gonna say, and
however you want.
approved or not approved.
An approved curricula for
yeah,
the
in
school district,
establishing
in
approved.
establishing.
Or either change
approved.
approving to approved, or
I think it probably,
you want,
I think
you wanna
initially I
do
was
that.
probably thinking and mistyped it. But I don't really care how it reads. That's,
Right.
you know, if Doc, if you've got a preference, just tell me and I'll put it in there.
I think it should be and approving. Because if you keep reading on.
Establishing and approving.
I mean, either way, it's fine with me. It could be established and approved curricula or and approving curricula.
Whatever, either
Cause the
way.
Board of Ed won't
Make
be
it grammatically
establishing
correct.
In establishing, right, in establishing.
it. Right now, if it says in establishing and approving curricula for the school district, the Board of Ed, well,
Right.
I was,
With due consideration.
I
So
thought
we
it
don't-
was in establishing and approved curricula for the school district, the Board of Education will give due consideration to.
Yes.
That sounds,
I think
That's
that's
fine with
better.
me, I'll make
Yeah.
the change.
Yep.
And you can see, just for the record, the line before that I was deleting,
Mhm.
it does have,
right.
in establishing, yeah.
Yeah.
So I, as I've said at various times, I try to stick pretty closely to what's in front of us. All right, thank you, Terry. Sean, anything?
No, not on this, seemed pretty straightforward to me.
All right, can I have a motion to send this forward to the full board?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That concludes me, 4-0. All right, the next one has to do with special education. By the way, the more I go through these policies, I'm finding things that have not been updated in 20 years.
Mhm.
So that's another thing, Jackie, that's part of a response to your concerns. It's just a matter of catching up to work that was never done.
Right, I can see, speaking for myself personally, having a response that was just from emotion of having this come out after our last month's meeting with the reading curriculum. Initially, before thinking through it, my personal thought was that this was in response, just the reading curriculum. And I know that I thought through it, we discussed it, I realized I was only thinking with my animal brain, but I wanted to make sure that anybody else in the community that heard it, that may have felt the same way, fully understood.
I don't think your concerns are unfounded.
Yeah.
And I won't lie to you and say that that did not create a bit of a fire under my butt. However, I had been trying to get curriculum to be working properly pretty much from the day I got on the board. Because it was clear to me that it was an issue. I actually met with the person who was the superintendent at the time and asked him to give me access to the curriculum, and he was initially going to do it, and then he got mad at me and he wouldn't. All right, so, this one is on IEPs. This is another one that was, if I remember correctly, painfully old. So, same routine. Tell me if you got any questions or thoughts.
So Terry, you wanna start with this?
One question that did jump out at me in reviewing this really quickly. On page 3, in that top paragraph, where it discusses the parent's guide to special education,
Yep,
the district typically does send that out at the beginning of the school year, but I'm wondering if we should update that language, because as a courtesy, a lot of times if our PPT is later in the year, our district is kind enough to send out a notice with that letter. That's usually provided. So for example, I just had one this month, and it was nice to have that sent to me as part of the notice.
I think that's pretty much standard operating procedure in most districts. It was in mine. Having said that, I certainly don't have a problem adding that in to the policy to make it sort of a clearer mandate if folks want to do that.
Yeah, I also had a PPT in the last month and was delighted to get all of the information sent to me afterwards, so like I had it all in one place with everything on there. It helped ease my concerns.
That is-
Actually, it
That's by
says it right
law.
here. It says at each
Annual.
PPT.
Yeah, by law they have to.
It is.
So, yeah, I'm glad we're following.
Well, I'm just saying, like I had a meeting in March,
Right,
and then it wasn't the beginning of the year, but like right after the meeting,
yeah,
I
this just
received it.
says annually, it doesn't say, district shall
Oh,
provide.
it's already in there. Never mind.
Yeah,
Well, it-
annually, the guide and rights, and then they have 5 days after to get you everything, everything from that meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's something that we absolutely have to do.
well, we're doing it, so
I
that's
know,
good.
that's great, that's great. So again, we're revising this policy just to be in line with the law, not because something is wrong.
And if somebody wants to suggest a change to the language, I don't have a problem with that. And it's starting to sound like people think maybe we don't need one. I'm mildly
Yeah,
confused.
after rereading this, like I said, I just skimmed through this very quickly. After rereading this, it does say that the information is going to be provided at each PPT, so that covers it.
Yeah, okay.
Fine.
Sean, anything?
I didn't have any changes to the actual language or anything. I was just, there was a couple of, just some, the like formatting, grammatical stuff. I don't know if that'll stay like that, but I was just, as going through all the other ones. And then when you get onto page 3, it just all of a sudden changes, like every other policy, you know, where it's got an A and then it'll be an indented 1, 2, 3, and these are all of a sudden Roman numerals. And I go, silly stuff, but all of a sudden it's
That was the
Roman
original.
numerals.
That's
Yeah.
not silly stuff.
That
That's
was your original.
That's the original, and what's gonna happen, and you're gonna see this on other things too. I tried correcting this. When I use Word, I got this advice from Dr. DeBrito, where it can take one document, take a second document, put them together,
Do all the work for you.
and it does a lot of work for me, but
It'll keep.
it also makes it impossible to make changes, including things like format, without it then marking the changes as if it's part of one of the original documents. It's very screwy. So what will happen on something like this, and also in all likelihood on other documents you're gonna see tonight and in the future, is that I or Kelly are gonna have to go through, make a copy of the document, and then use the copy to correct the formatting.
Gotcha.
Good point, though, that will.
Sure, I
Yeah.
just, it's just something I noticed.
It is weird.
Yep.
I spent over an hour trying to figure that out and finally decided, okay, the great gods of Microsoft don't want me to do this.
Gotcha. Okay.
And this is from like 2012, so maybe they were using Roman numerals at that time, and now CABE is not.
You're right, so that was something, and then same thing on, and again, if that's what it is, it's like on page 5, it just seems like the paragraphs were broken up where it has spaces, you know, this applies to, and then it's got a space, students under, and then it's just got all these weird spaces in
Yeah,
between.
he's talking about right here.
And then like all those
Space.
little broken.
Yeah, all that stuff
You
underneath it,
corrected.
that's,
Sure.
that's exactly the section I was just talking about that I spent an hour on. I finally gave up.
So, again.
I did, I'm not kidding, I spent an hour
I
on it.
believe you, I can tell.
Yeah, and at least that
It's
shows
very
that I went
annoying.
through it with a fine tooth comb to even be pointing that stuff out, but.
No, you're fine.
But so, yeah, other than that, really, there's absolutely no, change to the verbiage of anything. Just trying to standardize the stuff as we go along.
I will,
Yeah, okay.
when is our next full board
The 14th,
meeting? We have plenty
you
of
have
time.
time.
I will, correct this stuff. I may send it out and just say, people, put your eagle eyes on this and tell me if I missed anything in terms of formatting or grammar, like you said, anything like that, before I give it to Kelly for a final, cause I don't want her to have to waste time doing and redoing things.
Whatever, also, just a silly question probably from myself, just not knowing is, in that same with the Roman numerals, where it just says a representative of the local education agency who is called, I was just,
That's,
what is that?
that's a special ed term, and I think it's in part of the law.
Yeah,
East
we're an
End-
LEA.
Yeah.
School districts,
Right.
Connecticut refers to us as a local education agency because, you know, a district might look differently depending on who they serve, but everyone's considered an LEA.
Got it,
Yeah.
gotcha, I just wasn't familiar.
And it's something useful to help you understand what she's talking about. There are districts, for example, Regional District Number 4, which only operates at the middle school and high school level, and the towns that feed into it have separate districts just for their elementary schools. And
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, your
It's-
local education is
So,
like I said, it could
the
be very
LEA
different.
for the grade 3 kid is different than the one from the grade 9 kid,
Mhm.
even though
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
bananas.
they have the same zip code.
Yeah.
wow, okay.
All right, any other questions or discussion?
Not at this time.
All right, hearing none, can I get a motion to send this one forward to the full board?
So moved.
Second,
Discussion? Hearing none, can we get a vote? Please say aye if you want to do that.
aye,
Aye.
Aye, okay, this one's going forward too. Cooking right through these things.
See, it helps all this,
I'm sorry?
these separate, it helps. I just noticed that some have page numbers and others don't, like this next one, there are no, but it was great to have page numbers on the other.
That's just me missing it at some point.
was it?
The others have
There-
page numbers, this.
Yeah,
this
there
one-
are a couple
Well, it
I
was
think
very
that I
helpful.
didn't
It
get.
is, right, you
I
said
didn't
page
think
3,
of-
we all went to
Yeah,
page 3.
exactly.
It is helpful.
Especially on the phone.
And printing on
Well, that's why,
too.
Yeah.
because we do the phone a lot,
Yeah.
No,
Good
it's
chat,
easy.
Chairman
I mean,
Badger.
Yes.
The fact that they're individual,
Yes.
Does
it's
help.
really easy, cause
yeah.
as opposed to the running
Yes.
document
Yeah.
where you were like,
Always
which,
getting confused.
The only thing, which is a bit of an issue, and this was my mistake, I had promised Chris Eckert I'd send all this stuff to him before the meetings.
yeah,
And with the separate documents and not having a Google Share available,
yeah.
it just didn't occur to me. So I will,
I saw him, I saw him attached to your email, I thought.
oh, maybe I
I
did,
did
maybe I
check.
forgot.
I actually verified to make sure
Okay,
that so like,
cool,
I saw, okay.
all right, I guess I forgot that I did that.
And I will just say, I appreciate, in your email, I only say that you referenced at like the end, like, okay, we're gonna, this one, this one, this one, this one, and that one, because then I would make sure that I wasn't missing any, so I
Well-
appreciated that.
To be honest, I was working on so many of these things so rapidly,
Yeah.
I was losing track.
Yeah.
I made that list so I could keep track of it.
So when there is one, yeah,
And I thought, well, if it's helping me out.
yeah, just that email, so for the next meeting, we're gonna be digging this one, that one, that was, okay, good, I could go through and make sure I found them all.
All right, now, the next one bounces us back into curriculum stuff. And it's the same kind of thing, what's in blue is CABE, what's in green is suggestions from me. Red strike through is is deleted by the program, you know, cause it doesn't match up with the CABE doc. And the only thing I think I really made much change on, I did this a few days ago, so I might be missing something here. But I think the only thing I really made significant changes on were just making sure that it wasn't just textbooks that were getting vetted and approved. Because it's not 100 years ago, we're doing a lot with a lot of stuff that is not just textbooks. And it doesn't mean that a supplement that's used for a week in a classroom has to get approved. But if it's a major support to the curriculum, then it needs to be. The other changes, which they're not in green, this is where there's italics in blue with a double strike through. If you look at the second paragraph on the first page, they were suggesting a 2/3 majority vote of all the board members. I'm saying a majority vote of the board members in attendance.
Just to be clear, I'm sorry, we're looking under instruction right now, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And the reason for that is purely practical. If we don't have everybody there, does that mean we can't, you know? If a couple of people disagree, does that mean, I don't want things getting held up for silly reasons. Teachers put too much time into this stuff.
And also, if there's members that aren't participating in meetings, should we have to put everything on hold in order to support and move something through the schools?
There would be that.
So I have a couple questions, mostly for my own clarification. Again, do we have a process for eliminating? Because it says, so at the end of that paragraph we're talking about, the board preserves the right to have specific items eliminated for just cause. What, do we have that process? And if so, what
Yeah,
is that
there
process?
There is a policy if we're trying to get rid of materials.
Okay, do we need
Yes.
to update that as well, or is that?
We're going through as quickly as we can.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that
Like there
the
might be
language in
outdated
that-
old texts, things that the Board of Ed actually use taxpayer money to purchase. There is a process to, we wanna purge this, so we will definitely.
Okay, I just make sure that well, I mean, I'll even look into it, aligns with the same process of implementing and bringing in should be similar to removing.
Typically what happens if you're removing something is one of two things. It's just painfully old and no longer appropriate. And there is, in many districts, there's a policy for how you get rid of old stuff. In Wallingford, when I was there, they could make a motion to donate the books, which were then shipped off to Africa, literally. They would go to a charity that would take them for poor people in Africa. If it was material that might be, you know, we have a riding lawnmower, which is really old, but it still runs. They need a new one. Okay, we'll dispose of this, and then it would be put on a list that would be provided to the public, and people could make bids on it and buy the stuff. That's one way things get eliminated. The other is if there was a community outcry for some reason. There's typically a procedure, and I'm sure there is one here, but I haven't found it yet because I just haven't gotten that far. There's typically a procedure where there's policy for how parents can find objections to a particular instructional piece of support. And then there's a process for that. I am pleased to say it happens very rarely. In my entire career, I think I dealt with that one time. I wasn't even a teacher, but I was running the curriculum council in the district I was in. And we had somebody complaining about this one book that was used in the middle school. And the teacher met with me and said, you know, are you gonna defend this? And I said, well, let's be clear here. No, I'm not gonna defend this book. It's garbage. I don't know why you're using it. I will defend the idea that the parent doesn't get to just pick and choose and make everybody follow their preferences. And there was a discussion, and I'll never forget this, there was a discussion during the meeting about censorship. And, you know, a lot of holier than thou, we don't believe in censorship. And I waited till they took a minute to get a breath, and I said, how many of you would give a Playboy magazine to your 3rd grade kid? Oh, you do believe in censorship. Gotcha. So.
There's a lot in between no holds barred and censorship, and that's what we.
And I don't disagree with
Okay.
that, but there are some people who draw lines that are too black and white.
Right, the nuances, it's all the
Yeah.
messy stuff in the middle, which is what I'm trying to get to. So I think what my question was, which doesn't have to be answered now because I can go back and look at the policy, is if something came so far that it came to the board to vote whether something get removed or not, we have a policy for that. That would line up with a majority vote of all the members of the board in attendance.
I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you I know that.
All right, cool, I'll look into it.
It may be something we're gonna have to work on, just like we're working on a lot of other stuff.
So
In-
may I?
Sure, please.
So this is double-sided, so the 3rd page, under instructional materials, number 1,
Mhm.
where it has individual project, do you see where that starts?
Mhm.
When you continue reading, it talks about industrial arts, homemaking. We don't really have homemaking courses, like, I wonder if we can update the language to career and
This is-
tech ed.
This is straight out of Cave, and I have no problem with you
Do you
making
know what I
changes.
mean? Career and tech ed.
Yeah,
Like these projects, but career and tech ed will kind of encompass, CTE encompasses all of that, including culinary arts, family consumer science, which maybe was called homemaking, I'm not sure exactly how far back, cause that was not when I was in school.
it was home ec when I was a kid.
Home economics,
Yeah.
this is called homemaking.
I need that class.
I'm just saying.
I think I repressed the knowledge of what it actually said. It was too old for me.
They put that like adult education, I need a refresher.
So I would think CTE would cover, cause all careers, you know, are
What
under
about
the-
where it says art courses?
Art courses too, because I think it's visual arts is what they're really talking about, where
Like-
you have these hands-on projects. But CTE, art courses, it's fine, industrial arts, CTE, art courses, we can, but just the homemaking was a little strange.
I don't disagree with you. Like I said, this is Cave's language.
But we can do career and tech education and art courses.
Okay, should we,
Cause the arts are not typically under CTE, they're
Yeah,
under
that's
the
true.
performing arts, visual and performing
Didn't
arts.
STEAM cover that? Like they added an A to STEM, so it's
No.
science, technology,
No,
arts.
because, right, but that's not what we're talking about, we're talking about very specific, projects where like, in math, you wouldn't necessarily be doing an industrial arts project with tools and things like that, that's what they're trying to refer to here. So,
all right, so I'll make that change if you guys want. That's not a problem. Anything else?
I guess just on the last, well, on the next page, that's the last page, just the last, pretty much the last sentence, I was just curious, according to, and we talked about it earlier, which kind of seems like it contradicted. according to state law, the Board of Education will make final textbook selections. Yeah.
That's true.
No.
That's why the
Cause
reading,
I was just like when we were just
Would it
talking
be
about it.
approvals?
yes, that's what they
Instead
mean
of
by
selections, cause we're not selecting them,
But
we're
that's what I
approving.
thought you just
Approving.
mentioned earlier, that we weren't selecting
That's a good point.
textbooks.
you're
Um,
approving.
We're-
So in a way, by approving is why they're using selecting.
Yeah,
Will make
um,
final textbook selections.
I don't have a problem with changing that to approval, because I think that's certainly my understanding and intent. The only question I wonder is, since they're citing state law, do we need to ask a lawyer if that's a problem?
And I just,
make
when I
final
just read it,
textbook
it just
selection
sounds like we're gonna
approvals.
be picking textbooks. I mean, that's just the way that.
I agree with you, I agree with you. It's,
We'll approve final textbook selections.
Yeah, I like that.
We'll approve
final
textbook selections.
I like that better.
Perfect,
That's great.
perfect.
Good job, Jackie. Anything else?
Good.
All right, hearing nothing, can I have a motion
So moved.
to approve this to go to the full board? So moved,
Second,
Second.
okay. And, can we get a vote, please? All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye, okay. It just occurred to me, I have not been writing down, which I usually do, who is making which motion. Have you done that?
It's okay.
I've pretty
Well, it's
much
on-
said-
it'll be on
I think
the
I've
record.
said
Yeah.
it.
I made the first one,
I've seconded
alright.
everything.
you guys did the second one, you did the third one.
It'll be
It's
in the record, we'll
dealer's
figure it
choice.
out. Okay. All right, we are cooking through these things here. This next one is one of the ones that, Dr. DeBrito asked us to take a look at. And let's see if you guys have any questions or concerns.
Which one, the
This is on the
monster one?
surveys.
Oh, okay, yeah. Surveys, yes.
Oh, you know what? Might have. Yeah, that's right. Any questions or concerns?
Just on page, well, I guess it would be 2.
Okay.
Just simple, tiny grammatical, I think, where it starts under the red, note the term survey where that's crossed out, says prior to administering a survey, the board, and it's stricken
I got
out,
that circled
of-
too.
but then it's, blue was added or, so it's like the board or education.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Okay,
That's a CABE error that,
yeah,
and you could tell I was going
it's like we
fast because I
crossed
didn't even
out
see
the
it.
right thing, right?
Yeah,
Should it
well-
just remain?
Yeah, it could be a typo on their end.
I think it
right?
is.
So like, here's an example of policy that was not being followed.
That's a problem.
Right. So
Right.
the survey on emotional well-being needed to have letters go out to families in advance, and they've been doing that for a couple of years without that
Without doing
going
that,
out. So
right.
so this year
Mhm.
is the first time, right, exactly, cause
Yeah.
that's something that we wanna make sure that we're adhering to.
Gotcha.
And then can we just add, cause we use parents/guardians pretty much everywhere else, but that number 1, underneath what we were just talking about, political affiliations or beliefs of the student or the student's parents/guardians.
Yeah, we could do that.
Cause it's keeping it consistent, cause at the bottom, it was added as a guardian.
Nope, that's fine. Anything else, folks?
Just actually in that same area, I just kinda wanted to talk through it, cause I wasn't sure. Number 5, where it says critical appraisals of other, so this is saying, in addition, no students may without permit take a part in a survey, or evaluation that reveals information concerning. So I was just wondering, when it says critical appraisals of other individuals with whom respondents have close family relationships, does it have to say, like, I'm just with, if it's struck out with whom have close family relationships, if it just said critical appraisals of other, isn't that like critical appraisals of other individuals itself?
Well,
Why does it have to be close relationships?
it's not unusual for schools to survey and teachers. I used to do this. I surveyed my students and asked for feedback. And they were encouraged to fill the surveys out, and they did them blind, meaning I had no way of knowing who had said what. So they had every right to be critical of me. We're not in a close personal relationship, and in that regard, it's probably not something anybody needs to worry about. I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know that I even understand that whole thing.
I've never encountered it, but for whatever reason, it exists.
And it had to have been in Cade, because it's in black type and it's still
Right,
there.
it's original, right.
Can we take out family unless we're willing to start defining what family is and just have it close relationships,
I
because
think that's the language from the law.
That's
why it's-
probably why this is
That's why
there.
it's like that.
Interesting.
I don't,
Relatives,
I
for
know I
some reason,
can't, but like,
close, like relationships with like I don't know, something must have happened for them to put it in.
to me, like, relatives and family aren't always
Let me ask you
Same
guys a question.
circle.
If we can find out that it's legal, would we agree to delete that whole thing?
Number 5,
Yeah.
Yes.
so you're gonna.
It could literally be revamped as, or that reveals information concerning conflicts of interest. Cause that's essentially what it's saying right there.
No, it's very different.
How so?
This, I think, and I could be wrong, like I said, this is a little weird to me too. To me, this because if it was conflicts of interest, they would just say that. It's a very common legal term.
Mm-hmm.
I think this has to do with we don't want to mess up families and get into conflict with them. And that's not conflict of interest, that's interest in conflict. It's a little different.
Sure.
I would, like I said, I would have no problem deleting that if it's legal, but we'd have to ask the attorney that.
I wouldn't wanna get just.
I can ask the
Yeah.
attorney, you want me to ask?
I don't wanna now move this
Yeah, if you don't
forward.
mind.
No, I don't mind,
Right.
All
I
right,
don't mind, so we're not moving this one.
well, no, what I was just gonna say is, could we agree that we will move it forward either with that line if it's required or without it if it's not?
Okay, you got it.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so can I have a motion to that effect?
Wait, I have one,
Oh, go, I'm sorry.
one section of this, the way that it's written is a little bit confusing. It's on, oh, there's no page number. So the third page, it's in blue. This is Cabe's language. And I think it could be tightened up a little bit. Because it reads as the line that says, for surveys not funded in any part of by the federal government, parents or guardians need not give written consent, but must instead be given prior notice of the survey with the opportunity to opt their child out of participation if the survey elicits information, yada yada.
It's legalese, that's why it sounds like that.
Concerning any of the 8 areas that we were just talking about.
Right. So there, in my mind, as I was reading it, there's a little confusion between opt-out versus prior consent for surveys. And what I'm suggesting is, because it's all written as one sentence,
Break it up.
might be easier to break it up and say something like, for surveys funded by the federal government that include any of the 8 protected information areas, that prior written parental consent is required, period. And then for non-friendly funded surveys involving the same sensitive topics, parents must be notified in advance and provided the opportunity to opt out their child or
I'm not
something.
sure that that's
And that way
exactly,
you're kind of, because leaving it the way that it's written, it's kind of convoluted.
And some might interpret parental consent means you were given the opportunity to opt your child out, but you didn't opt them out, therefore you gave consent because the information was sent to you and you had the opportunity to say, I do not give consent.
What I think I would suggest, if you wanna break that up, would be the following. For surveys not funded in any part by the federal government, parents and guardians need not be given written consent, period. However, they must instead be given prior notice of the survey, blah, blah, blah.
That breaks it up.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Because I think it's a whopping of a sentence. I remember when I read it the first time, I think I read it 2 or 3 times before I felt like I knew what it was saying.
I'm like, this has to be a sentence that Jim Francesi cannot stand.
You know, it's funny. You're right. I didn't like it, but I was just trying to blow through so much stuff. I spent a lot of time on this crap. All right.
And just sticking on that same thing, just question is,
Sure.
because maybe it's because I have a note right here as far as on that, the paragraph above in that same, the parents, guardians shall have the right to inspect that paragraph. How do parents know 2 weeks in advance of the survey? Like, so it says such request, this is just a question to me. Or such request shall be made in writing with a response to be at least 2 weeks in advance of any survey to be given. So if they need to be, so we have per policy that you'd be sending out notifications of a survey being given? Is that what it is
I think
now?
that's what Dr. DeBrito was
said that
referencing
wasn't
before
happening.
about not
That
happening.
is now happening in advance, so then, which they should know, which would then make
I
this
think that's what she was
relevant.
addressing.
Is that what
Mm-hmm.
What that tells me
Right,
though.
the law says you are supposed to inform families. They should know that their children
which would
are
give them
being
the opportunity to give the 2 week.
or at least ask, what is it about? What are the questions? Cause we do get parents that did that this year and they were then okay, like, here are the questions, this is why we feel it's important. At least
Sure.
you're not shunning the guardian, you're actually engaging in communication.
I agree with you, and although it does tell me that I need to go through and look at 6141.11.
Right.
And make sure that we don't need to make changes for that one.
Sure. See it potentially that.
All right, so can I have a motion to send this forward to the board on the basis of the edits and the potential edit of item 5 as agreed?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, can I have a vote? Signify you support it by saying aye.
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 Oops, on this policy.
Okay. 6.
We talked about it, but
Oh, it's an old one we went
we
through
just
already.
did, yeah,
Okay,
my
hang on.
apologies.
That's all right.
6159, page 2.
Okay,
6159, page 2.
okay.
Underneath that red cross out paragraph where it says a parent of a child.
Yeah,
Parent,
yeah.
maybe a parent or guardian of a child, yeah, my apologies.
All right, can we have a motion to agree to that change since we approved something slightly different?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Good call. And one more.
Two more.
2 more.
Oh, 2 more. Yeah,
This
well,
one is like little.
It's so
like-
short. It's so short, I forgot it was there. All right,
Oh my
policy 5125, student records.
In all honesty, I did not have an opportunity to really read through this, so
It'll take about 3 seconds.
No,
Not
that's
that
fine.
one, this is the thick,
Oh,
this is the one,
I'm
this thick
sorry, we're
one.
not doing the money.
Do you
one.
wanna table this until our next meeting? Do you guys need time?
I would
Yeah.
ask that
I'm
if
fine,
it's
125.
not like a time, if it needs, like, I will take the time to read it now.
No,
If
I
it
mean,
needs to be discussed now, I know
I
some
mean, we've
things
agreed
are
to
like
have an
more
extra
important.
meeting, I think we can work
Yeah.
this.
So this can wait
It's a long.
to
Um,
go over,
It needs to get done, but I don't think it's a crisis.
thank you, that's what I was trying to
Yeah,
ask.
no, all right, so we've agreed to table that one.
5125.
And I'll get that on our next agenda instead.
Thank you.
And then the
I promise I'll be
last
prepared.
thing, pardon?
I promise I'll be prepared with that next day.
It's not a problem. If worse comes to worse, Dr. DeBrito will write you a pass for missing your homework.
I looked it up this morning.
It's at the-
Okay, last one, business and non-instructional money in school building.
That's good.
Keep in mind that other one, the policy is only a few pages, they're all like regs
Yeah.
that are after, just so you, but it is one of the ones that's over 20 years old.
Yeah.
I just wanted, I got it, I had opportunity to, I skipped this and saw this and was like, okay.
Don't
Table
worry.
it. Thank you.
You know, you guys have all been so efficient all year long. There
Oh,
is
yeah.
no way I'm
Oh,
complaining.
yeah,
Mhm.
true.
All right, so the thing about monies, and this may interest you, we once had a department chairman who kept $3,000 in cash in her desk over the summer and was then shocked to find it gone when she came back to school. Honest to God. Honest to God. She is now an administrator in the district.
Oh, okay, interesting, that's wild, just to have anybody who just.
She did get slapped pretty hard for that.
Dang,
She got a letter of reprimand, I think.
Hmm.
Anyway,
just the fact that they had $3,000 hanging around.
questions, discussion?
None for me. Looks good.
So this pertains to
When you're
like,
collecting money.
like a
Yeah.
PTO event or,
Right, or not a PTO, because that's not
that's private.
school.
so this is just the
This is
school.
like they
What
had a
would-
dance, or they had some event
There was a school
where,
play,
yeah, they're bringing in
basketball
money,
game.
sports activities, right, people
Yeah.
are paying.
So it's whoever's like sponsoring it is the one that's, so
The
if it's a s-
district,
if
right,
it's a school
we have
slash district
oversight.
sponsored, then this requires, but like, again, a random example, the PTO sponsored the dance at the elementary school, so the PTO
That's,
dealt with the money themselves,
That's a
it wasn't the
private
school's
organization.
responsibility.
Sure, yeah.
Okay,
Right. The challenge here, page 2, and that's a little hard to follow, but the third paragraph, in no case shall cash be left overnight in schools except in safes provided for safekeeping of valuables. And even then, no more than $100 should be so kept.
where is it supposed to go?
That's the concern is, if they have an evening event. And is this really legislated that it's $100 because,
If it's in
I-
a safe,
I don't know what's legislated.
right?
I know
Like
that's
that
in,
one is a real,
I think that's in, I mean, that was in the cave language. I didn't invent that one. The only thing I can say is
because the bank
I am
isn't gonna be
unaware
open.
of,
Well, that's why I'm
Any-
saying the use of or have a procedure for
After hours.
after bank, making
I mean-
bank deposits after regular banking hours.
yeah,
A
and there,
procedure, but like the fact that it says, but you're not gonna put it in the safe. That's the weird, it's just weird how it,
well, the expectation is, you've just done, for example, the school play at the high school.
yeah,
There've been 1 million people, there's $375.42.
right.
Take it to the bank. Oh my
But
lord.
it's Saturday night,
and the
Excuse me,
bridge is
Paul.
Saturday
closed.
night,
Hey, Paul? I'm in the middle of a policy meeting for the Board of Ed. I'll call you back in a little bit. Thanks, ma'am. I will. Bye.
If I can, I mean, to me, when I read it, and I was thinking exactly of that example, say there was $300, $400, and that was it. I didn't see any problem with them, it's a procedure, or it's just known that you're taking that money and you're driving 4
To
minutes
Liberty
to the
Bank.
road to Liberty Bank, and you're depositing it in the night drop box. And what that does, in having this as $100, it deters and it gives everybody the sense that there is never money at the school for any way, shape, or form for somebody to break in for money.
But we would need a debit card, like we need an ATM card, I should say,
I
in
believe
order
there's
to
a
do that.
old-fashioned night
Cash.
depository, isn't there?
I mean, yeah, you
Does it
deposit,
still
you
exist?
could deposit
So-
cash right into a night deposit box.
I think,
I mean, into the ATMs, you can deposit cash.
all right, you know
So
what?
I appreciate
We need
your,
an ATM card.
To,
Yeah,
because I didn't think of the fact that there was money in the school, people breaking in. My initial snap reaction was, isn't the money safer being, it was collected at the school, put in a safe at the school versus a person taking several $100s on themselves at night to the bank to deposit? Like, what has a larger margin of error or event?
I think this one is worth also looking into just
I was just gonna say, I think I'm gonna
research.
table those.
I mean, I
you
think
could,
on both
I
sides.
actually,
you could use
I
that
actually
same
just
scenario.
Googled it.
You Googled it,
Uh,
Terry.
You're
What do you
right,
got?
you're right, I think,
You
I
know,
think
So
it's just,
it-
we're
no,
like,
Guys, hang on a minute. Go ahead, Terry. Nobody heard
I
you because
just
they were talking.
Googled it, Liberty Bank in Moodus does offer night drop service for deposits. So
And I say we
that
stick
will
with that.
allow
Is
us
that
to
where
Yeah, but
our
night
schools
drop
after
service,
regular business hours.
okay, does that, so you're thinking that doesn't require an ATM card?
It would have to, let's
No, it's the
see.
thing where you pull it open and you put
Yeah.
it in and you close it.
Okay.
like
I
the-
think you
like
don't need a
the-
card, it's just,
Okay.
it's
It's a
Yeah.
night
You just have a
deposit.
deposit slip
Remember those
in the
old school
envelope.
things
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Put it
deposit
in the
slip,
thing and it shoots, zoop.
that still exists, go to Webster Bank.
Yeah.
Do we-
All right,
I mean,
so-
Does our school uses, our district uses Liberty
Yeah.
in town?
Every-
We don't have to
yeah.
like cross the bridge or like go to a different town,
It's
it's,
the Liberty right there
Okay.
next to the.
that also just like brings
But
me
we're
back
gonna
to reality.
verify, like,
Okay.
let's just verify because, it's a reality, it's kinda tough, who's responsible then at night to go?
Maybe the $100.
The advisor.
You know,
It's very clear.
Yeah.
That's not,
Right?
yeah,
that's
They
not
might
new
not be
stuff.
comfortable, the
I-
administrator, they might be more, cause if they're used to during when school's in session, you give it to the administrator secretary who might do the deposit, but
Well, and,
that was the way it was, but.
yeah, and it typically would be the principal unless,
Yeah.
or the assistant, unless that person's not attending the event. And that does happen, for example, when there's a play with multiple nights, they don't stay
Yeah.
every night.
Yeah,
And then the advisor for the function takes over.
okay.
You were in the middle of talking, I just wanna make sure you finish it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, if we want, you know, 100, I mean, I still like it just for the mere fact of it just, it decentralizes or whatnot, that, you know, there's no money in a school. There is
Right.
no chance, you know, kids, teenagers, whatever, get that idea out of anybody's head. You know, do we change 100 to 200, what's 200 to 300, you know, but still, I think it's good to have that, and it should just be the mindset to get it out of the school immediately. And just like to the other point, is a bank, you know, somebody might not wanna do it, well, that's what happens at a bank. They have to take it and they go somewhere else at night, or a lot of places, you know, I don't know, I just.
So, folks, make my mind up for me. Are we tabling this? Are we moving it forward? Do you wanna move it forward, with the understanding that, we're just gonna make sure that there is in fact a night depository that doesn't require an ATM card? And that we won't move it forward if they need one? Cause you can't, I don't know that you wanna give everybody an ATM card.
Definitely not.
Cause you'd have to give them the code that validates the card,
That doesn't seem, yeah,
you know?
that doesn't seem.
If we can vote to move this forward, with the understanding that our concerns that are just information we need are answered, we'll keep going, but if we find out that you do need a debit card, or like, you know, there's something here, then we'll not.
So just get more information
And we
for
could
that
always
one.
table it at the full board
Because
when we
the, yeah,
realize that.
it's short, it's sweet,
But
it's to the point.
But if we get it and we have what we need, we can move forward.
Yeah,
Alright, so there are two that we're getting info on, only one is being tabled, 5125.
Correct.
Student records. And I would also request on the one that I'm checking on, the surveys, 6162.51, where it has, students' parents, that it also be students' parents / guardians. That same request. On page 2 of 6162.51. Under number 1.
Yeah, we got that already. We got told about that.
Okay.
I have the note on it.
Okay.
But that one, you were
That was a different
It was a-
one, but somebody
Just
said it, I didn't
adding
write it down.
just adding
Yeah.
/ guardians.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, so if I remember correctly, Sean's gonna send me his baseball schedule.
You can write it down, it's Tuesdays and Thursdays. I mean, really, it's every Tuesday and every Thursday at 6 p.m. And the games are no big deal, cause they're always Saturday, so.
He was thinking of adding a Saturday meeting, no,
Oh,
I'm teasing.
yeah.
Oh my god, no.
Yeah.
Between baseball and
Now,
soccer.
I would just
and-
like to say that as much as I love all of you, the real impediment to doing that is that my wife would kill me.
Oh,
And I will say, the only reason I didn't even bring that up is because like right now, I have 3 great other coaches on my team are handling the practice.
and here you are on a
Which is why I'm
Thursday.
able to be here, so I wasn't gonna say that because I could make it happen.
But if we could stay away from it,
But you didn't and I did, so it's my fault.
and it could also be
I
during
don't
the,
like missing.
it could also be during the day.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. D and I will put our heads together. I will work on this stuff. I will probably share what I get done for one last look before I release it to Kelly to be sent forward. And any other questions or concerns or anything like that?
I just wanna say for the
There
record
was
that
one, Jim, that I wanted to mention, and maybe we can make it part of the review for 5125 for next go around. What, and it's in relation to some of the information that was shared with us when we had that hearing the other night for the budget. I thought it was.
Oh, right, you talked to me about this.
Yeah, about the student, the letters and all that confusion that surrounded whether or not they should be read, this, that, and the other. And it got me thinking that perhaps maybe we should have a piece or an addendum as part of 5125 that kind of addresses that. So if we have students that are under 17 at the high school that want to submit things for public hearing, and want to include their names, then if a teacher hands that over, we don't want to have a FERPA violation on our hands. So maybe including some language to address that, and then also including maybe a parental form in the policy itself that families can use.
just like
that wasn't, oh, that's very interesting.
like a district-wide, like general permission, or like,
That was
yeah.
not a school, that was not a Board of Ed, event.
No,
And it was a student who brought that, so somebody gave it to the student, it wasn't an actual teacher that came forward and said, here are my students, writing. So that's an interesting one to
yeah.
process.
When we talked about it, I kind of came to the conclusion that that was really an issue for the Board of Finance because we weren't releasing information.
And it was somebody else from the public, a resident, who came forward and shared the letters.
and if it's a 15 or 17-year-old student and they speak at a town hall, they have to state their name
An address, yeah.
and address, so in theory, they would also, it's reading it from a letter that was submitted is no different than
Yeah.
it being said out loud for that, right?
Well, now you're going to, be talking to the attorney briefly
Mhm.
anyway. Maybe just ask him if we have any exposure on that.
Okay, will do.
Even if it's
Because I would
us
think that that
giving
would be a
them
5-minute
some
conversation.
guidance
It
for the
wouldn't cost us
future,
much of anything.
because I hope it builds momentum that students are speaking at these meetings, cause those students, I know that before I was on the board speaking at those, I was shaking in my sandals. Like, it takes a lot of guts and bravery to not only put your thoughts out ahead of time, but to actually stand up and speak. Like, bravo. I am so proud of those students.
Agreed.
I was also, but I did talk to one of the kids, one who seemed to really have her stuff together, and tell her, listen, the English teacher and me can't resist asking you to pass this on. Insulting the people you're talking to is probably not a good persuasive technique.
Nope.
Says you.
Yeah. I don't
Also
remember.
says me. I think, we all,
I
if we
don't-
take our feelings and our guts out of what we're trying to say, then we're all just robots. So I think a little bit here and there is okay. And if it's not you gotta do it while you're young, 'cause you can't get away with it when you're older.
Oh, I was literally talking about it from an instructional point of view. Task, purpose, audience.
And the responses.
All right,
True.
I think we're done. Can we have a motion to close out this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Man.